How you doing? Sam Smell, your trusted real estate guy. Let's talk about 5 costly home seller mistakes. It's really interesting because there are always the stories of homes flying off the shelf 5 days before it goes on the market, 2 days after it goes on the market, multiple offers. However, there is a flip side to this story as well. And it's very interesting because sometimes you hear people talk about it, other times you don't hear people talk about it. And often I think it's what kind of gets pushed to the side because people don't want to talk about it because it's embarrassing. And many times people will lose money as well. So we've all heard these stories. Let's talk about the 5 costly mistakes that sellers make when they're looking to sell the home. And it can certainly, especially specifically Silicon Valley, there's no question about it. If you make one mistake, you're losing thousands and thousands of dollars very easily. There's no question, and possibly even hundreds of thousands of dollars. And one of the reasons for that is that when you are making changes to a home, Silicon Valley is an expensive place to live. It's also an expensive place to do any kind of work. Any kind of permits that you have to do by themselves are going to push you over the limit and also cost a lot of time. And a lot of time can also cost a lot of money. Just because if you don't happen to get onto the market within the time that you'd like to get onto the market, maybe it's the wrong time and you've missed out. Of course, we don't want to time the market, but we want to work and sell when it's time to sell. Overspending on the wrong upgrades. This is very important, and this is number 1. A fancy kitchen is great, and an addition might look amazing. However, a buyer may not see it that way. And so it's very important that when you are looking to do an upgrade, especially something like a kitchen, make sure that you have professionals who are working with you to give you guidance. I have actually come into properties after they were done by somebody else and not sold. And we had to make some minor tweaks and then we were able to sell it just because it was more focused to one specific taste. And the agent who had it before me did these upgrades and told the sellers they could expect much more money. However, some additional steps had to be made. With those additional steps actually cost much less money, like hundreds of dollars instead of thousands of dollars, and it made it more neutral. And so it's very important to pay attention to that. And many times a coat of paint and new lighting is actually what is going to be necessary. Now, number 2, the second costly mistake is focusing on curb appeal and forgetting about screen appeal. One thing to pay attention to is we all have screens in front of us constantly. It's our cell phone, it's our tablet, it's our computer. We constantly have screens in front of us. So the natural step for us to take as a buyer is to look at homes on the screen. If it doesn't look good on the screen, if it's still being lived in and there's clutter everywhere, if the pictures are not professional, they're done with somebody's iPhone. I have seen some professional photographers come in with iPhones. Not my favorite thing to see, I gotta be honest, but they do it professionally. And I'll be honest, I fired those photographers. Number 3, this is actually exactly what I was just going into, which is hiring the wrong agent. Number 3, if you hire the wrong agent, not everybody works the same. So not all agents are the same. Make sure that you do your homework and make sure that you work with somebody that you feel comfortable with. Of course, I'd love to be the one that you work with. At the same time, maybe I'm not the right person. And if I'm not the right person, then that's totally fine. But make sure that whoever it is that you're working with, you can trust and they have a good reputation and you have backup as to who has referred this person. Do they have letters of referral? Do they have referrals online? Do they have a referral that sent you to them? That is one of the most important ways to actually find an agent is by referral. And I happen to work by referral, so I'm kind of biased to that. Now, number 4, highlighting features that don't actually add value. Open floor plans, accent walls are nice to have, and accent walls are cut out, but they don't always move the needle on price. Many times, if you have an open floor plan, you still actually have a net that you're casting out that you're actually getting a smaller amount of people for, because not everybody loves the open floor plan. And not everybody loves the white. Not everybody loves the black. Not everybody loves the white and black combination. It's actually kind of getting old. It's been around for a long time. So what you want to do is, again, you want to make sure that you're casting a net to catch the most people as possible. So an open floor plan is fantastic. And when people get there, they'll see how the open floor plan looks. But advertising that open floor plan may not be the best thing, because it may not be the best way to advertise that property. That maybe there's other features at home that can get people's attention in a better way than just saying open floor plan and calling it a day. Now, number 5 is certainly a big one that comes up, and I've seen this many times, and more times than I'd actually like to admit. When I'm working with somebody and a seller, and many times it's not even the seller that wants to do this, but the seller has had experience with a previous agent or a friend who told them not to disclose everything. And this is a big problem, because a buyer is going to find out about things that a seller tries to hide, especially when the buyer goes through not just the disclosures, but also the inspections. And so it's important that a seller does disclose everything that they know about the property, that's happened to the property. And they also want to make sure that in disclosing those things, they're disclosing them in a manner that's not going to scare a buyer away. It's important to describe really just the facts, not the experience necessarily, and not the emotions behind what happened. Pipes break, floors get flooded, and unfortunately these things happen. They need to be disclosed, and they need to be disclosed in a way that the buyer can say, okay, that was taken care of, or okay, this is something I got to deal with. One way or the other, buyer has to know if it was taken care of or if it's something they have to deal with, because one thing I can guarantee you is they will find out. And if they do find out and it wasn't disclosed and the property has already closed, now you're in for a lawsuit, and you're definitely in for at least a heavy arbitration, and you have to pay some of the money back that you were not expecting to pay back. And that's certainly never a fun thing to deal with. Now, I have put together a simple breakdown of the most common seller mistakes and the questions you need to ask the agents before you actually hire them. If you're interested, look, please message me or click the link below and reach out, and I'll send it over to you. That's no problem at all. I'm always here and happy to help. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out. Talk to you.